All right, you all asked for it. Now here it is. The Ford 9-inch axle differential pass-through setup. I got a huge amount of interest in this, so I'm going to be making a video or maybe several on it. But right now we're just going to go over some basic components and some things that I made and also things that I'm going to modify for it. Before we get started with that, I just want to start with addressing some of the comments. A lot of the comments have been absolutely wonderful, very smart, cool people that, you know, are innovative and want to reach out and try different things and all, and that's amazing. That's what this is geared towards. Then there's the other guys that just make absolute fools of themselves by trying to act smarter than everybody else, and just, it's clear they have no concept of what they're talking about. There's quite a few different ways people do this. One of my favorites is their justification for who they are, and they have to like state their case to you. So they'll be like, well, my father's cousin's sister's mother was a machinist for 30 years, so you don't know what you're doing. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, we don't all have cousin sisters that are that, so you know, that doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to do this. One of the things I rely on, because I don't have crazy accurate machines, is 3D printed jigs. So I make a lot of 3D printed parts, which actually come out very dimensionally accurate, to help center things and all, and it works very well actually. Yeah, so this is not for the people that you know, the probably, I don't know, 10 comments that commented on my short about this, saying that they don't know what a differential is or they don't know what a pass-through is, so I should take the video down. I mean, okay, you know, like, I'm not gonna take the video down because you don't know what it is. Like, I'm sorry, there's a lot of things I don't know either, but I don't go beating up people on their videos for no reason. So anyway, let's get into it. If you're the type of person I formerly mentioned that, you know, leaves comments like that and all, you might as well turn the video off right now, because you're gonna look like a real moron when you have some type of temper tantrum in the comments. But anyway, all right, so first things first, what you guys probably saw in the short was this. This is a basically like an adapter, and it centers through your two pinion bearings. Then you have your 1/4-inch drill bit here for getting a hole that's truly center to your pinion through the back cover, the pumpkin cover. That's what this is. Now, the drill bit sits kind of tight in here. I actually used 2 of these, and there were times where the drill bit was spinning in here, and then I actually made another one because it ended up breaking. I had to change some of the parameters for printing this. And then the whole thing spun, which actually wasn't bad. It was funny. My one friend was there, and he's like, oh, the whole thing's spinning. Well, it's sitting in 2 bearings. It can spin all at once. If anything, it'll actually help it stay centered. But anyway, so you have this one here. And by the way, when I actually do finalize all the designs, I am going to make them available for downloading on many of the major 3D printing sites. So if anybody wants the files or anything, they will be available in the near future. I have to address some issues with them, because this is, you know, you can have all the theories and all you want in the world, but it needs to be backed up by real world, and that's where we're at. So, okay, another thing that's important to know, the one that I built in the video, the axle housing itself and the differential itself is going to be the final one. However, the pinion and all that's in there is not even the gear ratio that I'm using with the vehicle I'm building. That was purely just a proof of concept type thing, and I'm very happy with the way it turned out so far. So now I have the correct pinion, and I have the ring gear over there, and I have a full rebuild kit for the axle as well. But yeah, this is going to be the one, and we're actually going to make another one today on camera with you out of this one, because this is, like I said, this is going to be the real one. This is a 4:11 ratio that's going in this vehicle. The other one was a 355, I think. I don't remember, but I'm not using that one. That was purely proof of concept and how to learn. And, you know, there were a few, I guess you could say, failures and, you know, miscalculations, and that's all part of learning. No reason to beat up on people for it. That is part of learning. That's how you figure this stuff out. You know, if I listen to all these people saying, oh, why are you doing this? You're stupid, whatever, and I stop doing it, and we'll never find out what works and what doesn't. Anyway, all right, so, plus it's fun. You know, there's a saying, it's called the chase is better than the catch, and I'll be honest with you, I have a lot more fun, even if I'm messing up, building some of these things than the final product. I mean, I love the final product, but to be honest with you, building it and figuring it out and all is the best part. So anyway, all right, so if you go online and you look up the diameter here on the pinion, it's going to tell you it's 1 1/8. It's actually not. Now, it may say in other places that it's not. The information I got first was that it was 1 1/8 of an inch. It's not. It's actually metric. It's 28.17. And they're close, but there is a difference. So if you look, this rod, I just turned this down the lathe. This is now 28.17. This is 1 1/8 inches. So I'll show you. This is actually what messed me up initially. This bearing is 1 1/8. Okay, so it fits onto here. Now this is a press-on bearing because it has, you know, the inner race, unlike our pinion bearing here that actually has the rollers that ride directly on the shaft itself. So this would be pressed on, but this does go on here. This is 1 1/8. Actually, if I hit it, it'll start to go on pretty well. Yeah, see, it's on there pretty good. But anyway, so that's 1 1/8. So this needs to be turned down because this rod, you know, was 1 1/8. I was hoping, okay, I could buy that, weld it on, turn it down, you know, once it's welded to the pinion, be done with it. And that's actually what I did on the first one because I didn't realize that it actually wasn't that. So yeah, so that was an issue. One of my first issues that we ran into. Then we also have, now because I thought it was 1 1/8 and I didn't want to sleeve it, I didn't want to put anything on it like that, because you have to remember something. When this is now welded onto the pinion can only go in one way. So once you put it in, you're gonna have to, if you ever remove it, it's gonna have to be pulled out from the, you know, the pinion side. So basically, you're gonna have to pull it out this way. Well, guess what? If this is bigger, it ain't gonna go through there because it's not gonna go through the bearing. Unless you weld it with the bearing on maybe and, you know, pull it out, because it will pull out the actual housing that way. But you're gonna have a bearing permanently stuck on here like this. And you know, you wanna do that, okay, but you know, that's that. And then the only other idea was, and somebody actually did mention this in the comments, and this was something I considered, was to make a splined adapter on here that a shaft would slide into. Then you can also, you know, play around with making the size of the shaft bigger and everything. I'm really not worried about this, to be honest with you, especially for the vehicle I'm putting it on. I mean, you already have your pinion shaft, even though it's very small right there, is that diameter anyway. You know, and we could get into the science of it and all that, but we're not here for that. So, and by the way, when this is done, just to satisfy you guys, I'm going to take it out and bang it around a little bit, and we're going to try and break it. Seriously, we are, because if it breaks, I don't care. I'll build another one, but that's how you learn. You know, I'd rather have it happen when I'm planning for it to happen than when I'm not planning for it to happen. You know, they say the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. Okay, I don't want to be out somewhere on a trail 3 hours away and do it. Could still happen, but we're going to try and avoid that. Another thing is, if you guys think you could do it better, by all means do it. I have no problem with, and I mean that 100% genuinely. I have no problem with that until you just say it and don't even pick up a wrench and do it, because those are the people that just irritate me. I don't want to hear it, never listened to it my whole life, and I'm not going to. You know, you could be armchair mechanics and machinists all you want. I don't care. Don't involve me. That's not what I do. So anyway, all right. So what else we got? So this is turned, now this is going to be turned down from 1/8 to 28.17 millimeter. but not yet. And I'll show you why. And this goes back to what I was saying about, you know, making mistakes and stuff. This isn't really a mistake. It was just kind of a misjudgment. But before we do that, let's go to this. So originally this was going to be welded to the back pumpkin. After it was cut out, this would be pushed into the hole there. And I'll talk in a second about how I was going to make that so perfectly. But anyway, and then that would be welded around on the inside here and on the outside. And then you take a deburring tool and go around the outside with it just to taper it in so it doesn't have a problem getting oil in and out. This would have been pushed in more with a snap ring to hold the bearing in. Then you have your double lip oil seal there where the shaft would come out, and the shaft would come through there on a, let me use this side just so it doesn't get stuck. Shaft would come, it would only come out maybe about that much, and you would have your yoke on the end of that, and there you go. Well, the issue with this is all my calculations were based on this size bearing, only to find out that this is not the size bearing I need to use. So it is going to be smaller. I'm going to use one of these. These were also 1 1/8, and they will no longer work. So this is actually going to be a little bit smaller going forward. It's going to house this bearing, and then I have another double lip oil seal where it will come through. And yeah, so still the same concept though. One of the ways that, you know, I have to remake this now because of this situation, but I made this piece, I 3D printed it. Basically, you take these tiny little brass rods and you slide them into these holes all around, and they stick down. You may have seen this before. This is actually a very popular couple of shorts that show these. And basically what you do is you put it on this tube here, and when you put it on the housing, so with the housing, this would be in it, sticking out the back cover. So that's how you would center it. It would go down, then you'd push this down. Well, all those little brass rods are going to push up in high areas, so it's going to show you the contour of what you need. Once you do that, take it out, pull it up, then you would trace it on the tube, then you could cut it to the contour to fit. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to be welding this on. You could fill it with welds and all, but it will get you matched up pretty well. The other thing is, like I said, you're going to have this rod sticking out the back, so you're going to stay true the whole time by going off of this rod. And yeah, so that, it's one 3D printed part. We've got our other 3D printed part. Now, these guys here. I got very lucky with the first one, getting it centered on the lathe. I don't know how I got that lucky, but you know, I did. And I did not use a runout gauge. Normally you would. I have a runout gauge and I do use it. I actually used it for this one. But I just eyed that up. Like I said, proof of concept. So anyway, so originally I made this, and the idea is put it here, you put your, use that side, put this in here, and then you could weld it. Now, if you look, that's off a little bit, okay? So I had to redesign it for 2 reasons. One is I actually made it tighter, so it fits very, very tightly on here. And then I also made a recess in it because you have where it tapers at the end here. So I'll show you how this works. You gotta remember something. This is designed for minimal equipment. You're gonna need a lathe because when you weld this, you're gonna have to turn it down somehow. I mean, I guess theoretically you could sand it down, maybe grind it, because the very end of this is not actually, there's not a bearing riding on it. It is riding on it, but it's not on the very end. So theoretically you could do it at home, but without a lathe. But in my case, I have a lathe and I'd like to do it that way, so that's the way I'm doing it. But anyway, so you see that sticks up halfway in there. Now this is a sacrificial piece. After you weld this, if it's not already destroyed from the welds, you're gonna break this off because it's just a piece of plastic that was 3D printed. I think I did 50% infill on this, so it should break off pretty easily. Like I said, sacrificial, but it helps you get it dead center. So this side on this, the tube in here is actually 1 1/8, whereas this side is 28.17 millimeters. So what I'm going to do when I make the new version of this, is I'm going to make this 28.17 millimeters on here too, because theoretically you'd want to turn this down first anyway, then you'd want to follow your you know, what you've turned it down to. You follow your diameter to clean up the welds. So let's get this on there. Okay. So if you look there, look at that, perfectly centered. Now you could cut, you know, a centering cone in the end of this, or a centering pin and taper and do all that and whatever. You can do that, yes, but this is pretty freaking easy. I mean, come on. So anyway, so then we will weld it up and break off this piece. Like I said, this is disposable. Break that off and we should have it perfectly in line. Then we will turn it down on the lathe again. One more thing I want to point out is there was another comment about the lathe, and the guy was saying how he saw somebody get killed on a lathe because he was doing what I did and all. And look, if that's true, I'm sorry. Like, genuinely, I'm sorry. That's horrible. I'm sure that's difficult to deal with, seeing that. But you know, the guy was almost alluding to that he was a machinist. If he was a machinist, he would have noticed the taper for a live center in the end of the rod. You know, being somebody that does it professionally, that's one of the first things you probably notice, so you wouldn't leave a stupid comment like that talking about how I'll get killed if I don't use a center. You know, the one time I just checked it for true by turning on the lathe for 2 seconds and looking at the end of the rod, I think is what he was referring to. But all the other subsequent times when I was turning it, yes, it was 100% in a center, because you can't turn something like that not in a center with a lathe, especially like that. So it's just the stupidity. You know, it makes it so obvious why people don't make videos like this, because just some of these people are really dumb. But all the great people out there that have questions and want to do it, that's why I'm doing it. So, all right, let's do it. Another reason why you cut long, not short, because let's say I did have to cut this, you know, normally when this is in it, it's probably gonna be cut about here. I have all this, so even with this, I could cut right on there, turn it back down the lathe, cut this back, and redo it if I had to. I would hate to do that, but if I had to, I could. Okay, so let's go with this, just because we're gonna turn that down anyway, that side. Okay, let's get some heat into this. All right, let's see. Hopefully that fixes our helmet here. Let's. Oh yeah, beautiful. That'll do it. Now, a lot of axles you actually can't do this with. However, the Ford 9-inch has a very, very low pinion, and it's off-center, where it actually completely bypasses your ring gear and carrier and everything in here. So it's ideal for this. I'm not the first person to do this, by the way, but yeah.